So every year in Canada, we have this reality TV book competition. It's called Canada Reads, and they take 5 books by Canadian authors, and each one is championed by a Canadian celebrity or author in a televised debate. And it goes on over a week. Each day, one book is eliminated until they find the one book that every Canadian should read that year. This is probably the second most prestigious literary award in Canada besides the Giller Prize. And every year I always want to read all of them, but usually I end up reading 1 or 2. Until this year, I have all 5 finalists here. I'm going to read them, and I want to read them now before the TV competition starts so that I can give my thoughts. And I'm really excited to be participating. I have 3 weeks-ish to read these 5 books, and I think I can do it. I'm excited. We're going to give it a try. All right, note to everyone involved, check your battery levels before you start recording. I've got some reading to do. I think what I'm going to do is get some audiobooks for these to make it a little bit easier. But I'll give you just a quick recap of what we're reading here. We have The Future by Catherine LaRue. This is probably the one I'm most excited for. This is like an alternate history, apocalyptic, maybe something, we'll see. Shut Up, You're Pretty by Taya Mutanji. This is a collection of short stories. It's very short. This is going to be a good booster, I think, halfway through to keep my momentum up. Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. This is a romance. I am the least excited for this one, so I think I need to start with it. Or else, if I save this till the end, I'm never going to read it. Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. I'm really excited for this one as well. I don't know too much about it. It's an Indigenous author. It's getting really great reviews. A lot of people are saying this is the front runner. So I'm excited to see what's going on here. And Denison Avenue. This is by Christina Wong and Daniel Innes. This is a weird, like, double-sided. Half of it is a novel, and the other half is all these illustrations. So I'm excited to see what's going on here. This is about the Chinatown district of Toronto, and I think it follows a family or some characters around that neighborhood. So that is the Canada Reads finalists. I will check back in once I've finished my first book. All right, so the first book I read is Meet Me at the Lake. This is by Carly Fortune, and it's a pretty classic romance novel. Very, like, I don't know, of the genre. This one follows a woman who, her mother has passed away, and so she is charged with taking over the lakefront hotel. And there is a man who she had a brief fling with 10 years ago who's come back into her life to work at this hotel. And it's kind of a will they, won't they, can they reconnect? Will she sell the hotel and move back to the city, or will he give up his life in the city to move to the lake to be with her? Classic, you know, it was exactly what I was expecting it to be. But I did enjoy it more than I expected to. It was pretty, well, I don't want to say it was light. There was some depth to it, but it was still really easy to read. I flew through it really quickly, and I did enjoy the characters. So, yeah, I'm not sure where this will land in my ranking overall because it doesn't really feel like a Canada Reads book. Like this, I don't know what the reason would be to encourage everyone in the country to read this and to discover something about culture or experience or anything like that. This was just a pretty straightforward, book. Anyway, that's Meet Me at the Lake. Next up, I have Denison Avenue, so we're going to give that a try. So the next thing I read is Denison Avenue. This is by Christina Wong, and there's illustrations by Daniel Innes. This is a book set in the Kensington Market neighborhood of Toronto, which is kind of like Chinatown, what it would be. And it's a lot about gentrification in that area. It follows this woman who doesn't speak very much English, and she's recently widowed. So she's kind of left to fend for herself in this kind of evolving and gentrifying neighborhood. And it's kind of just about her relationship with the place. And I thought it was really beautiful. This was really cool. It was written very poetically. There was different sections that were written kind of phonetically in Cantonese and then had translations. There was like kind of these like poetic sections. And then the back half, you flip it over and there's all these illustrations of the neighborhood. And I thought it was really beautiful. The story was pretty short and I would have liked a little bit more from it, but overall I really liked it. I thought this woman was very lovable. I'm really interested to know more about kind of where the story came from, if there's any kind of autofiction to it, because there was a character named Christina introduced. So this might have been like about her grandmother or another relative. And also there was a Daniel introduced as well, who is the illustrator. So I'm not sure if that was intentional or not. Either way, I really liked it. I've started reading Bad Cree, which is the next one on my list, and it's really interesting. All three of these books together all are about people experiencing loss and grief. So that's an interesting theme across these books that I'm noticing so far. We'll see how that fits in, if it does at all, with the last two books. But that's my observation so far. I really liked this, especially if you've been to this part of Toronto before. There's a lot of like landmarks mentioned, and especially with the illustrations at the back, like I recognize so many places. So yeah, that is Denison Avenue, really beautiful. And I think it fits a bit more in with the theme of Canada Reads, of like learning more about the experiences of people in this country. So anyway, that is that. Okay, sorry if there's lots of noise going on. There's like construction outside. But this is my update for Bad Cree by Jessica Johns. This was a really interesting read, and this was, going into this, I thought that this was going to be one of my front runners, and I still think so. This is a book about a young Cree woman named Mackenzie who starts having like weird, almost otherworldly dreams. And they're very vivid and they don't feel like dreams. And then she'll wake up and be holding some sort of object or something from the dream. And it'll eventually disappear like a few minutes later. And it's kind of about her living in Vancouver, trying to figure out what's going on with these dreams. Her sister has recently died. So it's another book about grief. And eventually she decides to return home to kind of revisit her family and her childhood that she's been kind of avoiding. This was interesting. It took a turn more for the horror, which I wasn't really expecting, but I did kind of like it. I thought the characters were really well done, really well fleshed out, really cute, and I did really like Mackenzie, even though she got so frustrating sometimes. Like, just constantly trying to avoid people, being like, oh, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to... It's really hard. Like, the plot had to come to her. She wasn't doing anything with the plot forward in this book. But if you're okay with that, then I recommend Bad Cree, because I did really like this book overall. Oh, I stopped recording there for a second, but... I'm back because I actually have a double update. I finished Shut Up, You're Pretty as well. I did this all in one sitting. This is by Taya Mutanji, This is a. It says it's a collection of short stories. I'm not sure if I believe that claim. I think that this is more of like a auto fiction something. It is short stories, but it's more like a series of vignettes all about the same character. So instead of following like a traditional narrative, it's just like kind of snapshots of her life. And I don't know how much this is like the author's real life versus an invented character. I thought this was all right. I thought my big complaint about this is there's a lot of stories and they're all very short. The longest short story in this book is like 10 pages, and I describe that as like a short story. Like some of these are like a page or two. And I don't mind that all the time in a short story collection, except like this is all the same character's point of view in all of them. So they just all kind of blur together. There's no really there's no real opportunity to experiment with style or setting or anything. It's just all the same. And like this character has like an interesting life. There's a lot of tragedy and struggle, but also joy. And there's a lot of this book is kind of about discovering sexuality. Yeah, it's very coming of age, very discovering sexuality. A bit more explicit than I was expecting for a Canada Reads book, but it was okay. This one didn't stick with me. Lots about immigrant life in Canada, but yeah, I don't know about it. So it's kind of lower on my list for now. I only have one book left, which is The Future by Catherine LaRue. I've just started it, and I will chime in with the update on that one soon. So I finished the last book, The Future, by Catherine LaRue, and this one took me so long to get through. It just wasn't what I was expecting it to be at all. I was the most excited for this one. It had the most promise to me, I think. But like for whatever reason, once I started reading it, it wasn't the vibe that I thought it was going to be. I don't think it's that bad. I'm just really confused kind of overall now. Having read all of these Canada Reads books, I'm really confused why really any of them are on the shortlist. The theme, I guess, okay, I'm going to start just by talking about The Future a little bit. This book is about kind of an alternate timeline present where Detroit and like I think Michigan in general is part of French territory. And this book is mainly about this woman whose, I think it's her granddaughter has gone missing and she's looking for her. But it's so much about just like her house in Detroit and her gardening. And then she goes into the forest and finds this like society of children living there. And I didn't get it. This wasn't for me. There was so many like forced opportunities to talk about current issues in this book and just give like the most general like 2-sentence like poverty is bad, like things like that. So I don't know. This didn't feel like anything. And I think that critics and judges might be able to find some things to cling to for this one to make it go further-ish in the competition, but I don't know. I don't know if it's warranted, to be honest. I didn't like this book at all. Anyway, that's my thoughts on The Future. I want to talk now just a little bit about what my predictions are for kind of how this competition is going to go. So Canada Reads this year, the theme is one book to carry us forward. And I don't think any of these books fit that. None of the, like, they're all very mournful and reflective. That's my takeaway here. So I'm not sure kind of why this theme was chosen, if we're not going to think about it at all when making the shortlist. I'm interested to see what kind of flimsy arguments are going to be made in the debates to kind of connect these books to that theme, if they're going to even try at all. That being said, here's my tentative, like this is what I predict the ranking is going to be. I think 5th place is going to be Meet Me at the Lake. This is just a simple romance with not too much going on. The things that it does do well are keep the reader engaged. So I think that's a good reason to make it a Canada Reads book, because it's going to be accessible to a lot of people. But I don't think it actually has much more than just an entertaining love story. Next, I think will be in 4th place, Shut Up, You're Pretty. This one is fine, but again, with the theme of one book to carry us forward, I don't see how this book is carrying us forward. There's not too much depth going on here. The stories are all really short. I wish there was more to it. I think, and I hope I'm wrong, that 3rd place will be Denison Avenue. I think now that I've read them all, this one is my favorite. But again, it's so reflective. This is about gentrification and a woman looking at her neighborhood changing, which I guess kind of is a book to carry us forward, but it's all about her kind of mourning the loss of the life she lived there. So I don't know. But the writing I thought was really well done in this book. It was so poetic and interesting, and I loved the illustrations that were included. So I hope this one does better than what I predict, but I think it's going to be 3rd place. So in my final 2, The Future and Bad Cree. I think The Future will be 2nd place. I think there's enough there to kind of push it forward in the debate to the end, but I think ultimately Bad Cree is going to win. This book is thrilling and interesting, keeps you on your toes, has a lot to say about Indigenous life in Canada, and I think has the most kind of overall optimistic, forward-thinking message. So yeah, I think Bad Cree is going to take it this year. Anyway, please let me know what you think is going to happen, or what your favorite books for this year's Canada Reads are. I really want to know what you think. I'm so excited for the competition to kick off next week. I'll be tuning in every day. Follow me on Instagram. I'll be posting updates during Canada Reads of my thoughts of how the debates are going. And yeah, make sure to subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you really soon.